Is going to be about a set of 3 graphs used in a paper that was published by Harvard Medical School as an analysis of hospital traffic, looking literally at the number of cars parked in hospital parking lots, not traffic from buses, not people dropped off or walk-ins, but the parking lot. And search engine data in Wuhan. We're going to start with the search engine data. I want to point out something first thing. I've altered these graphs, and the way I've done it is I've removed the very non-granular way they were done here to focus on a specific timing and event and a specific cyclic behavior of the normal or quasi-normal level of infection rate they have in Wuhan for generally upper respiratory illnesses, not specifically COVID-19, and not specifically what they are saying is a major indicator here. We're going to talk about the new normal versus the old normal. In Wuhan, they're specifically saying that the search engine that was used by people in town that's controlled by the Chinese Communist government had a specific curve to it for people looking up whatever the word is for the equivalent in probably Han Chinese in Wuhan for the word cough and the word diarrhea. Now, remember that every country, at least for the word diarrhea or anything else involving digestive tract problems, may use these words for other reasons. Yeah, these could be used as figures of speech. It might have been used in some other context. We are not getting context here. But let's assume that just like in any other country, you could have a very specific wording like upper respiratory illness versus cough versus cold. I have a cold is also a word you use to indicate the temperature outside or inside. So words can have all sorts of meanings here. But we're going to assume that they used the best word possible and did not necessarily confuse it with any words that could have multiple meanings. And again, I want to point out again, digestive tract problems that cause specific behaviors of your digestive tract will often be used as euphemisms for various meanings. Like, are you shitting me? Literally, that kind of expression is used all over the place. In fact, that's the most common misuse of words that are medical terms, I should point out. But anyway, let's assume that they did a good job here, and let's continue. The curve for looking up the word cough has a curve to it that appears to go from, let's say, September to October. Yes, I filled in letters here so that we can actually know what we're talking about. And this is probably wrong. But anyway, a curve that goes up has a double peak approximately January through February, and another one right at the beginning of March last year, or 2019, and a couple of other spikes. But the downturn stops and then starts to come back up again, at least for this, August. Okay, let's say that the cold and flu season is almost 6 months in Wuhan, with a tiny break around August and September normally. So these would be a period of time around August, let's call it that, where you might have a downturn. Okay, and we can see the spike had a double tap here. This one is almost exactly on January through February, and this one is a major spike here for people looking up having upper respiratory illnesses in March. Now we'll go forward here in March. Obviously this is obliterated, right? Well, no, there's the spike right there. It's just it's buried under people having coronavirus. And the other spike right here lines up almost exactly, let's see, January through February, late January. Yeah, there's the spike again. So we can see something that I think is kind of consistent. People looking up cough very often, but about the same rate they were doing previously. And a major spike here at the beginning of this. Probably because they decided, I need to look this up because by January, everybody on the planet, I'm sure, knew that coronavirus was running around doing stuff. Now there's another spike here. We'll just look at that really quickly. Right at the beginning of the new year. And over here, we don't have that extra spike. Well, yeah, we do. We got it a little earlier. That's kind of probably it. Considering the size ratio here, I think we should call that one about right. So that indicates mid-December. So yeah, we have it delayed a bit. The cold and flu season in Wuhan might have been delayed a tiny bit. Here's the second spike of the peak of their cold and flu season. And it lines up really nice with almost February through March. And on here, February through March, it's right on time. So the early spike was slightly delayed, maybe. Okay, now let's look at this double tap here. This is right straddling November. So here's November, and here's this thing. Now, I'm going to call that a pretty close hit. And we have the downturn, and we have another upswing here, again, for upper respiratory illness. I'm just going to call it that, from September to October. So we go back to September, October. We have a downturn here, but there's a little bump there. So, okay. But anyway, this is when their previous cold and flu season for 2018, straddling their new year, the early part of 2018, was downturning. And there's that spike there just after January. And here's the just after January 2nd spike. Here's the just after January 2nd spike here. So that curve is their normal for 2018, and it dropped right there, September to October. Then it went back up almost immediately, did the double tap, came down, and here's August and September, so it's a little earlier. Now, let's use that as a normalized baseline, because the claim, the assertion, is that sometime in August, there was an increase in a specific thing, looking up what I'm going to call lower digestive tract or digestive tract illnesses or stomach flu. This is the thing, one of many things they're indicating as a strong indicator that COVID-19 may have been running around in the environment. Remember, this is overlaid right over the top of the normal cold and flu season, which seemed to be a lot more mild, but no, it's not. It's more flattened out. Interesting. So anyway, maybe a bunch of people got digestive tract illnesses and it made them stay home because you can't really go to work if you have a digestive tract problem like that. And maybe, just maybe, that caused people to not be able to transfer it. Maybe they accidentally flattened their own curve from August to nearly the end of the year. I don't know. We'll see. We don't have all the data here. Now, the assertion here is that people abnormally, and it does seem abnormally, looked up what I'm going to call digestive tract infection problems. It could be anything, bacterial or whatever. And please understand, COVID-19 can be an infection that stays resident and infects a digestive system. It can do that. This is something people have found out about. And that is why this is on the list. But this could indicate that it started off originally as an intestinal infection that became able to be in the lungs. Now, that's a majorly useful thing if this is factual. But they would have to gather samples from all the way back in August of 2019 and be able to confirm that that's what they were dealing with. We don't have that data yet. But let's just see if this is probable or accurate. Okay, I want you to look at the variation in this curve. Doesn't go much above or below a very small point. And remember, the graph over here says 0 up to 200. What? Well, it's relative search volume. Okay, so their average is 0 most of the year. People don't get gut infections in Wuhan. Okay, maybe they eat a really good diet. Then it curves up from July to August, and then it does exactly the same thing at an elevated level. During the time there's a downturn in coughs. Now that might represent a transition from the standard, ordinary cold and flu season, switching over to an intestinal infection taking over in the area. And then it's staying like that for this long while this was happening. Now, the only thing I can think of that would cause that is an outbreak, because you may have noticed, besides COVID-19 overlaying on this, and obviously cold and flu season overlaying on it, we have the search spike really transitioning almost February of 2020. But COVID-19 was active, and this is acknowledged by most sources, back in October. There's no spike here. There's not even a spike in upper respiratory illnesses compared to the previous year. This is a standard curve. I don't think the search engine data is useful, because what I think happened is this was caused by them nulling a bunch of searches. They may have been, quote-unquote, correcting their search engine. I don't believe this is a useful indicator, but it may be a useful indicator of something else. Cholera. This may have been a year they had a cholera outbreak in August. We don't know. But this happening to be dead flat like the rest of the year, but elevated, that just means people were looking it up. That doesn't mean they had it. There are more specific words that could be used, like how do I treat or home remedy for digestive tract problem or diagnosis for it. Okay, let's go on to the next graph. And yeah, I didn't correct the months on this one because it's basically just a wipe smeared curve. This is the statistical range of, quote unquote, the number of cars seen in parking lots from aerial and satellite photos, again, may or may not have been filtered by the Chinese government. I'm highlighting three major hospital incidents here. Wuhan, Tianyu, which is these green dots here, apparently, and an overlay, some of them are, with Wuhan Union and Hubei Women and Children Hospital. These spikes happen in these areas. These are major spikes at specific hospitals. People go to the hospital that's either closer or is best suited to treat them. But we do see a curve increase. And again, it lines up with the asserted change that happened here for diarrhea cases. But again, you notice this curve, hard spikes for search almost in February, but it's going down in cases. These are going down. This looks like cooked data, but here's the peak right here. And they line it up with before the search engine shows an increase. This is a mild level. This is almost dead flat. In fact, compared to the previous year, it is dead flat. I call this I have my doubts. But being people brought in because of a diarrhea or digestive tract infection, doing this, absolutely slamming them because they had an outbreak of cholera or something. I'm using cholera as a generalized thing. It could be any damn thing. It could be any stomach infection. It doesn't have to be a virus either. Could have been associated with it. It being, again, almost exclusively associated with it, and only a very mild increase in search engine activity, if you're going to use that as a marker. Whereas this hard spike in October, because in October we don't get a hard spike, we get a mild one. We get the hard spike much later. If anything, the cold and flu season was delayed, maybe again because there was a different infection and people were in mass staying home. I mean, I hate saying it, but maybe we owe the delay here to people being sick from some unrelated thing, making them stay home from work, because honestly, if you can't control your digestive system, you can't work. They can't make you work in the slave labor camp kind of environment. And it's not like that in Wuhan for the most part. So this looks like a bunch of people who went home and stayed home, and because they already, practiced social distancing because they had no choice, they couldn't leave their house, maybe that flattened the curve for it. That's possible. But then we see downturn. We see an upturn that's, plus or minus ratio here. Now we go to the last graph. The disease signal, as it's referred to, confirmed COVID-19 cases, only spiked, well, again, they didn't do a good graph down here, but late February, it was a single spike. Okay, that has to do with them building new hospitals and stuff. Influenza-like illnesses have a curve here. Again, a hard spike. Influenza-like illnesses, aka people being checked in, spiking hard in January, all the way back to November, I guess. Well, it's actually specifically December through January was the spike. We don't know about that. Okay, well, if this is an indication of these diarrhea cases, where's the damn spike? There isn't one. If anything, there's a slight downturn, and there may have been a curve here, but where's that missing information? Okay, I'll give you my conclusion. And remember, this is me doing a review of Harvard. Okay, this is not relevant. I'm an irrelevant idiot. Search volume in this case is cooked because the state controls their search engine. This looks like them correcting data that makes Winnie the Pooh look bad, number one. Number two, the search for cough, if anything, was muted. And if anything happened here, if it was related to COVID-19, I doubt it, odds are there was some other infection happening at the time that caused people to stay home in Wuhan and may have reduced things. Hell, maybe they just had an ordinary, food poisoning incident. Maybe it was from the market. Who knows? Maybe it was from an American restaurant. That's not really a joke. I'm pretty sure the American restaurants get them sicker more often. I am absolutely sure this has nothing to do with COVID-19 right now. You might have gotten it from a seafood market, or maybe it from some other place. It could have been anywhere. But it might have been from a bunch of people for several months being sick from an intestinal infection that turned into coronavirus. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with all that.